Kaya yung definition namin ng perfect parent at that time evolves along with the age. So example, 6 months. Basta na-feed lang namin or basta breastfed, perfect na yun. So, pero it was something that was subjective. Like the term perfect. Kasi in reality, wala namang perfect.
Yes.
But I realized as a mom that it's something that is dynamic as well. And it's something that you define yourself as a parent and based on your own standards, and don't compare yourself with other parents kasi may sari-sariling style and kids are different too.
Ang ganda na sinabi ni Doc Gia, you know, even as professionals, we all end up in stage 0 when we become parents because you've never done any of that in the past. So ang ganda lang na, you know, you set realistic standards for yourself. My baby is alive today. I did great, diba? So it's something that I'm sure some of us pressure ourselves too much about, but hearing that from someone like you, it's so good to hear na, I'm sure may mga tao dyan na parang, okay lang pala yun na yun din yung na-experience nila. Katarina, in your case naman, I'm sure when you were expecting, you know, you had this vision of what kind of a mom you wanted to be, and what was the person that you were envisioning? What was she like?
So actually for me, it was before I got pregnant. I had this idea of a perfect mother, a perfect parent. And it was, you know, someone who had the baby book and kept up with all the baby's photos, someone who breastfed till 2 years old, someone who could be a mom and have her career at the same time, and just had everything put together. Diba? Yun talaga yung iniisip natin when we think perfect parents, someone who does it all and still be there for their baby. And then yung nabuntis na ako, parang wala na lahat yan. Kasi when I was pregnant, I was just so lazy and tired. I didn't even want to have a baby shower or gender reveal. Buti na lang yung sister-in-law ko, pinapilit niya talaga. Sinasabi niya sa akin, no, we have to do this, we have to do this. Ako naman, ayoko, I'm so tired, I just want to sleep. And even the way I dressed when I was pregnant, far from how I thought I was gonna dress when I would be pregnant. Nakala ko, susuotin ko yung mga beautiful, flowy dresses. Hindi. Yung sinusuot ko, yung mga pants from Thailand, yung tipong 50 pesos, galing sa ukay-ukay, yung t-shirt ko, tie-dye, na basta hindi sila matching. Kahit yung chinelas ko, one pair is black, the other pair is blue, tapos iba din yung brand. Hindi matching yung chinelas ko. And then, wala, yung asawa ko, nahiya siya sa akin because we stayed in his resort. So, sinasabi niya sa akin, we have guests. You need to wear a bra. You need to fix your hair, brush your hair at least. And then, I guess it's the hormones where all that idea of the perfect parent goes out the window. And as Dr. Gia said, it changes as the baby gets older. And I don't know, for me, I really feel that the perfect parent now was my mom and my dad. Like, I call them so much ever since I first got pregnant. Hanggang ngayon, tumatawag ako sa kanila, tapos they ask me, how are you? What do you need? I'm like, I don't know, I just called you because I want to talk to you. And then I tell them, wow, like, the way you did this was so good. And like you said, the goal is that when your kids are older, they're going to say, you were the perfect parent. So I guess, tama ako when I say that, to me, my parents are the perfect parents.
You know, they always say that you have a greater appreciation for your parents when you become... They tell you, in fact, they tell you this while you're growing up. Hindi mo malalaman hanggat maging magulang ka na. And it just goes out the other ear. But it's so true that once you become a parent yourself, parang, wow, ang galing pala. How did they do? How did they keep me alive all these years and keep me healthy and happy? Because you realize how hard it really is. And that just shows you that if they were able to do it, then maybe I can do it too. And it's so nice that na-mention mo na, you know, the support system is always going to be helpful because there are people who understand what you're going through as well. So, ang ganda na ng discussion natin, nagsisimula pa lang tayo. Iiyak ba tayo later, Doc Gia?
Mangga.
Buti na lang maraming ilaw, hindi masyadong halata. Okay, so let's move to, you mentioned you were a very different person when you got pregnant. You let go, because of course the image we have of you, very fabulous, you're a beauty queen and all that, pero nakakatawa yung image na share mo with us, di ba? Talagang let go ang lahat. So, that goes deep, di ba, Doc Gia? That's not just because you're lazy. There's also a deeper meaning to that. Ano sa tingin niyo yung mga naging mental struggles ninyo while you were going through not just pregnancy but also the parenthood journey so far? And I'm sure there's lots to share. But let's start with Doc Gia. What you can share with us?
Let me start with parang you are constantly wanting to define yourself. That's you pa lang, ha?
Doc Gia, ang aga pa, sabi ko mamaya pa tayo iiyak. Okay, go.
First, so that's finding yourself. And then you have a child who's also trying to find his or her identity. So it's a balance between what you want for yourself and what you want for others. And the term selfless becomes so real. Diba? Like my parents, I know were selfless. But when you become a parent, it becomes so real that, yes, sometimes you forget and park your feelings aside for your child. But I found out in the long run, hindi pala yun beneficial. Because in the long run, that's what you teach your child. Eh. You tell your child to be, oh, it's okay to cry, it's okay to run, to be happy, pero sa sarili mo, pinipigilan mo yung happiness mo. So it's more of giving justice to what you preach.
Grabe, Doc Gia, you know, the first things pa lang that you said, it's a constant battle of finding yourself and you're helping your child. You're not just allowing them, you're helping them find themselves also, and you find and in the process, it's such a confusing feeling for the parent because you can't even find time to find yourself. Kasi yun nga yung pagiging selfless, yung mga mommies and daddies natin dito. And I know also daddies experience this, no? Quiet lang sila, pero they can relate so much with what we say. When you become a parent, talagang the idea of self becomes so sacred na dati hindi mo naman masyado iniisip. Biglang ngayon, you're constantly trying to give to that naman, pero ang hirap. How about you naman, Katarina? What were your mental struggles when you started out as a parent?
So I just want to say I still feel like I'm starting out because my baby just turned 1 the other day. So,
Happy birthday!
Thank you!
Huge milestone! A round of applause for her, please, and to all the parents!
Thank you!
1-year-old
So, internally there was a lot, and also externally there was a lot of challenges that I still go through till now. And I feel like I only now started to feel like my old self again after being pregnant for 9 months and then having my son for a whole year. And the internal struggles, I think it's you know, while you're pregnant, depending on your pregnancy, yung sa akin medyo malabo. So I can't really remember how internally I was feeling because I was just preparing to give birth. And then after, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what do I do? How do I bathe him? How do I hold him? How do I breastfeed him? What do I name him? Like, there's so many questions. And there, you know, you have the voice in your head that you can either help, you can soothe yourself or you can second guess yourself. And that keeps going, that changes. And then there's also postpartum. There's postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. And just to share, my postpartum came later on, mga 6 months after, and I feel like it was triggered from an external event, which was the Typhoon Odette that hit our home in Siargao. So we were based in Siargao for 2 years, my whole pregnancy. It was the first home of my son. Luckily, we were not there. And then after it started to calm down, I started having, I'm sure a lot of moms here also experienced this, I was having not naman suicidal thoughts, but we moved to Manila and had a condo. And then we found out we had a balcony, which we didn't know when we bought the condo or when we got our place. And then I would be awake around 4 a.m. Tapos yung mga thoughts ko is, what do people think about when they jump off the balcony? And I was just thinking of jumping off the balcony. I didn't know why. Well, I blame it on postpartum now, but at the time, I would wake my husband up and tell him, babe, we need to put a lock on the balcony. No one can go to the balcony. And then he checked the time. He's like, it's 4 a.m. What are you doing? Why are you thinking about this? And then I would message my friends who were awake, and I would tell them, this is what I'm thinking about. But I didn't want to die. I just wanted to know why do people do it, and what's their thoughts. So, and I'm a philosophy major, and I studied philosophy of death, and I never felt this heavy, eerie feeling that I felt at this point in time. So that's something that I struggled with for like 2 months. I was afraid to go near the balcony. I had this fear of heights. Sometimes I would think, oh my gosh, if I leave the baby with the yaya, what if she's holding him over the balcony and like just shaking him or what? So all these different thoughts, and then I would just let myself think them and then just kind of try to forget them. And in turn, that affected me, my physical self. I didn't want to work out. I was just obsessed with that thought for a few weeks.
It's so interesting to hear that, no? Kasi you knew that it wasn't something that you want, but it's sometimes we just can't control where our thoughts go, and you don't understand because it's just a bunch of things are happening to you, and then your mind will wander. But it's so nice that you're aware enough. Not everyone has the capacity to be aware of these things and to know na, okay, let's do something about it. Doc Gia, yes, we want to hear from you.
Thanks for sharing your experience, Kat. And again, if you are experiencing, you can contact the number of National Center for Mental Health. That's 0917-899-USAP. Since these are questions that we tend to ask ourselves, and help is out there. We are here to tell them that help, support is out there if you have questions and if these thoughts start to happen.
Or you can also check out, of course, the page Unsaid Feelings. Sometimes you just have to put it out there, and you have to have someone, just even if they don't reply, just the feeling that someone heard you, someone was able to read whatever thoughts you had in your head. That helps so much. So please take heed with what Doc Gia has mentioned. Doc Gia, was there anything else that you would like to add to what Katarina mentioned? In her case, she knew there was a trigger that for her postpartum. For those who don't even know what they are feeling with their postpartum, they don't even know what that is. They don't even know. Basta they just have all these feelings coming off of giving birth, and sometimes it comes out even much later. It's just your child is 2, and that's when you start not understanding what you're feeling. What can you say to these people who are not understanding their emotions at that time?
Well, emotions are really like energy. Sometimes it's low, mid, or it's sometimes high. And in the journey of parenting, it's so important that you can talk to someone about how you actually feel with no judgment. Just like Kat, di ba you spoke with her husband, sabi mo, why is this happening to me? It's okay. I mean, wala naman tayong answer sa lahat ng questions at that point. It's okay to question when in fact our answers start when we start asking these questions. And that's how parenting is. It's a how do I term this? Parang it's a partnership with your partner, with your husband, with your wife, with your family, whatever your living arrangements is, it's a partnership. So if you feel that you are not ready yet, then just acknowledge how you feel and know that healing starts from there.
Doc Gia, just to add to that, no, how about those who don't have the luxury of having their partners with them, or iba yung support system nila? What do you think would be best for them? Because we don't always have that partner that we're comfortable with and who we feel will not judge us when we tell them something. What do you think what are their first few steps when they encounter this setting in their lives?
Acknowledge how you feel. That's first step. Because when you are aware of how you feel, that's when you start to realize that, okay, I'm on day one, and then tomorrow will be another day. Okay, number two, take it one day at a time. Meaning to say, if you are an overthinker, kunyari, and you have five processes, 5 issues in mind, cut it down to, I'll deal with 2 issues first, and then I'll move forward. Number 3, support comes in many forms. So yes, we acknowledge that not all are really with family, with friends. And so, dito na papasok yung mga support lines which we have so much of now na, especially after the pandemic, we realize the importance of mental health and how important it is to talk about even just saying that bad trip ako today, I feel so sad today, how am I even gonna deal with my daughter, my son, na hindi ako okay. So yun. And writing it down can actually help. So that's when journaling comes in.
I completely agree. I think that having someone to talk to and writing things down and just kind of like talking to yourself that this is postpartum I'm feeling. If it is postpartum or I'm feeling something normal that other parents feel. In fact, it's funny because there were other new moms who are my friends who would message me telling me, did you ever feel this way? And then I'd be like, yes, I did. And I would tell them, I felt this is what I was thinking about. And then they find comfort in me sharing my story, my obsession about jumping off the balcony. So another thing I did was I would distract myself. I would watch a lot of K-drama. So
Yes.
a lot of K-drama, that was my cure. And I would play a lot of Tong It's Go. So those were the 2 things that would kind of keep my mind away from that one thought. And I think having just these guilty pleasures of like playing a certain game you like or watching a certain show you like, give yourself that.
You know, find your therapy, diba? If it's talking to someone, if it's hanging out with a friend, whatever it is, find what will help you at that moment. But most importantly is find your support somewhere. Already loving the conversation from Dr. Gia and Katarina. I hope we are picking up some things, if not just for the tips, diba? But you realizing that maybe that's what you're going through. Perhaps may mga mom rage tayo dyan. Ang dami nga, itago na lang natin sa pangalan yung host. Minsan may bursts of mom rage and you don't understand what it is. It helps to hear from these moms who are with us here today na the tips, like acknowledge it, figure out, you know, who you can share it with, so that those are parts of the process for you to be better parents to your children and a better self. You know, you can be better to yourself also, because you should be kind to yourself. That's the only way we can get through life, right? So we will continue on with more of these, but another thing that can really help us become better parents, another thing that we can scratch off the list with the many things na iniisip na natin for our children, is making sure that we have the right things that we'll be using in taking care of them. And we're so grateful to Pampers for sponsoring this real talk that we have here. But also, please take advantage because they do have their booth ready for you guys. You can go over and check it out. Take advantage of the promo. 17% off or up to 17% off. They also want to give away a voucher worth 3,500 pesos. So all you have to do is have a minimum spend of 3,000, and this is only while supplies last. All we want for especially yung mga baby when they're very young is for them to get like what Doc Gia said earlier, di ba, parang masarap lang tulog nila, nakakain sila, they're smiling, okay na yon. And how do you get uninterrupted sleep for your baby, and in result, uninterrupted sleep for you too? Make sure that your baby is wearing the right diaper. So when they get uninterrupted sleep, they have better development, they are less cranky, therefore tayo rin less cranky, and we enjoy the day more. And if you can find a diaper like Pampers that allows you to not change anymore, posible pala yung hindi nagpapalit. You have the one overnight pants and which means one dry night for your baby. And full 8 hours of sleep, hopefully for everyone, because it can absorb up to 1 night's pee. It's got a magic gel channel technology. Wala rin siya yung kulob, therefore wala tayong mga irritation. It's also hassle-free and no mess with leak locks if we can take away from our agenda of the day having to clean our babies more times than necessary, then we want that. And of course, huwag natin kalimutan that Pampers is endorsed by the Skin Health Alliance, an international group of skin experts who test the safety of products on skin. Sometimes when we have a situation where our babies are not in their healthiest form, kunyari may irritation, we blame ourselves so much. So you want to get something na alam nyo, sure na sure, sobrang tested and internationally acknowledged. Pampers approved by Smart Parenting, largest parenting community magazine in the Philippines. So we'll see you guys at the booth after our talk, but going back to what we have been discussing. I needed a break lang kasi medyo na ano na yung emotions natin, may mga naluluhanan ng konti, no? But going back to the challenges of being a parent, aside from, or what makes parenting really even more challenging is, aside from the things that we're going through, our personal struggles, minsan, ang dami mo nang pinagdadaanan, like what Katarina was mentioning earlier, no? Ang dami mong iniisip. She was obsessed with the thought for a while. It was affecting you in many ways. But aside from that, there's this little baby who's looking up at you, who is expecting you, of course, to love on them, take care of them, you know, and meet their needs. And that can be a lot for us, diba? So, yun pa yung struggle natin. So, syempre may impact pa yun on our mental health as well. But when your baby is looking up at you like that, do you think na may effect din yun sa kanila? Even yung mga medyo mas older na, like toddlers who can think for themselves and are a bit more aware of their surroundings. Katarina, in your case, ano sa tingin mo yung meron bang effect yun sa mga baby natin, yung mga struggles natin with mental health?
I'm not entirely sure if scientifically or clinically it does affect, but as a mother, instinctively, feeling ko yes. So when the Typhoon Odette hit, I couldn't eat for 3 to 4 days and I was breastfeeding. So instead of latching my son, I would pump and then give him the bottle. Tapos, I really had my lola or the yaya hold him more because yung instinct ko, feeling ko talaga na he'll absorb the sadness, the negativity, the anxiety. When my dog died, it was the same thing. I wanted to hold him, I wanted to hug him, but I felt like my son was going to absorb my sadness that my dog died. And anytime I feel something that's negative, I just try to have my own space, distance myself, so he doesn't absorb those feelings because I want him to be a happy baby.
So interesting that you shared that, no? And I think a lot of us are relating to that also. So you wanted distance between the two of you. You're very conscious about him absorbing whatever negative energy you were feeling. And as a person who wants to be a better parent, yun yung nakita mong solution for you at that time. Doc Gia, what can you say about what Katarina has shared?
Super feel ko siya. Kasi energy talaga is, if I were to draw it, parang it's this way. Parang it's like a spectrum. Now, I'll just share my experience kasi I'm a breast cancer survivor for 9 years now. So, when I was diagnosed, I actually told my daughter, who was 9 years old then, that I had cancer. It may be difficult to comprehend, pero sabi ko sa sarili ko, might as well share mommy's pain, mommy's sadness, and in that way, they actually learn how to cope. So as early as 9, she was asking me pa nga, Mommy, are you gonna die? Sabi ko, no, Mommy will fight for you. So parang ganun siya. it was more of, I had to share my pain so they can also, oh no, yan na tayo. So they can also see the beauty of, how to cope, the beauty of shared pain in your family, and that healing is possible. So talagang I shared it to them.
Doc Gia naman. No, but we're so happy that we are 9 years strong with this one. But what you mentioned, 9 years old, and Katarina mentioned this earlier, you have your instincts as parents, and sometimes your instinct is, I want to protect you, and I want to keep you from all the bad things in this world, even if it, has something to do with you. I'm sure that was a very difficult decision for you to make, to share that with her. But what we're getting from what you said was, make them a part of it so that they understand better. Kasi nga, like what Katarina mentioned also earlier, no matter what happens, kasi it's still going to be an energy around you, and our babies are so much smarter than we think, and they do understand. So in your case, you took the control of the situation, and at 9, she understood. Galing. Thank you so much to both of you. And we're not saying that any of the approaches were correct or wrong. It's what's going to be best for you, because you know your children best. But it's so nice to see it from different perspectives as well. So, tutuloy pa ba natin to? Yoko na. De, joke lang. Okay. So, it's just so, it feels good. And it's so hard to say that because you're hearing about struggles from other people as well. But like what you mentioned, when you hear someone else who understands what you went through, it's so comforting. It's so validating to hear na you're not the only one who goes through these struggles, even if sometimes parang you're the only one. Parang you feel so lonely and parang no one else understands. But there are other people who have gone through it. It is more normal than you think. And now I want to know, taking a page from your books, because we see today you guys have obviously powered through all of these mental struggles for you, and you have beautiful children to show for it as well. We're very happy. Maybe you can give us tips naman, maybe share with us how you continuously try to overcome that pressure of wanting to be the ideal parent that you have created for yourselves, that idea of the ideal parent that you want for your child. Baka you can help us overcome yung pressure that we've made also for ourselves in becoming that perfect parent. Kat, what's your take on this?
That's a great question. It's a question I'm still trying to figure out the answer to myself, but I really think that it's all instinctively. You will, if you sit down and really listen to yourself and really just breathe in, breathe out, which I'm sure you tell your children also. As Doc Gia said, you practice what you preach, and I think that really helps, because after all, mother knows best. I think that's so true. And when it comes to your mental health, I think simply reminding yourself that, okay, my child needs me, and I have to get my life together. I have to, not even for anyone else but them, for yourself, really. And to put yourself first, because you cannot help your kids if you cannot help yourself first. I think having a partner or a support system that's very supportive and helpful is also the best secret, whether it's your husband or wife, your boyfriend or girlfriend, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your work friends even. I think having any support system there to help you. My husband, he has no idea what I'm talking about when I have all the emotional mood swings. He's just staring at me. But he understands, okay, she's going through something. And he tries his best to make it as easy for me as possible. So I really love him for that. And then sometimes I think, but is he okay? So there's, it goes in circles. And then for your baby, your baby's gonna love you no matter what. And I think because my son is so young, I'm still in that stage that like, oh, I love him, he loves me, he just needs me. I'm sure though the older they get, the more challenging it's gonna be. But I'm gonna try, personally I try to write down these things. I try to write letters to him for when he's older, but I also write letters to myself. So when he's 18, I can read a letter that I wrote to myself when he was 1, just so I can think, okay, this is how I thought back then. I can do this. And I think always looking at a stronger version of your past self is so inspiring. I feel like we are the most inspiring people in our lives. A past version of ourselves, or even a future version of ourselves. And I think that's what got me through everything. Is I really talked to myself. I talk to myself a lot now, but I really told myself, okay, I need to be the best version of myself for my future self, for my family, for really just so my household, my foundation is set. And I still don't know what I'm doing half the time, but it definitely helps with the confidence and to just get things done.
It's so nice that you mentioned that you don't know what you're doing half the time, but the truth is we all feel that way. We don't know, we're just powering through and we're just going with our confidence and the fact that yes, your child is still seems okay, so I guess I'm doing something, diba? My child still seems fine, so I guess I'm doing something right. So it is very comforting to hear that, other parents are also thinking the same way that you are thinking. Doc Gia, how did you try to overcome all of these struggles that you have gone through also in your journey in trying to become that perfect parent to your child or your children?
Before kasi, I would always prioritize other people. Parang it's always palabas. But in the process of parenting, of, reading up a child, you have to realize that you're also your own person and that you're with a child who has his or her own identity and just let it be. And here pa, enjoy the moment. Kasi like me, my daughter is 19 and my youngest is 16. Parang I miss those times na we would go around and play together. And looking back, I should have, medyo, if I work 8 hours a day, sana 6 hours na lang, plus 2 hours playtime. Something like that. But it's never too late. All I'm saying is time is precious. Time for yourself, time for your kids, and just let them be. Enjoy the moment. And if you are a struggling parent, maybe it's about time that you take it one day at a time. There's no such thing as perfect. In fact, imperfect is the best way.
Improvement is the best way. We like that. You already touched on it. I want to add another question for both of you. These days, as moms, we're trying to do everything really. And one thing that helps us keep ourselves from, the same self that we knew back then, helps us keep that is by maintaining a career or, working at the same time, finding a business that we like. For working moms, you mentioned earlier na if you could go back in time and change your working hours, how do you think you can help out those moms or parents here who are struggling with that pressure naman, that pressure of maintaining a career or a job, a business, and at the same time trying to still be a really good parent to their child? Katarina, I know you're also a very busy lady, so I'm sure you have something to share.
Okay, so I just want to say really quick to Doc Gia, my Lola told me the other day that when he looks at his sons who are like nearing 60 or around 60, he still has those thoughts. He still wishes, he still looks at them, and he still giggle with them. And these are grown men who have their own children, and who their children have children even. But he told me, he's like, when I look at my sons, I still want to make them giggle. I still think, wow, sana I spent more time with them when they were this age, this age, this age. So I think it keeps going. It's never ending. Yeah, so I wanted to share that. But to answer your question, In a way, it also answers the last question. I feel like so I did there's also a time frame where I compared myself a lot to my colleagues. So I would think, oh my gosh, her career, we started the same time, but her career is so successful. Ang dami ng movies ngayon, ang dami ng endorsements. Ako parang wala na. Parang lahat ng tao, they all forgot me. That's what I felt. And then I was also gone. There's the pandemic. I stayed in Siargao for 2 years straight. So I thought everyone forgot me. How am I gonna get back into it? But when I gave birth and when I started to feel more like myself, personally, I had this drive to work and to make money, and not even just within my career, but to have like a side hustle or to do something else. And I was never money driven before. I could have 3,000 pesos in my bank account and think, okay, bahala na, I'll figure it out when there's nothing left. But now I'm like, okay, we spent this much and this much and this much, and I'm very OC, and I have Excel now, and I compute everything. So I think for me, it just became something that I felt like I needed to do. I still do compare, I admit, myself to my colleagues. But then I also look at them and I'm thinking, alam mo, they're probably thinking, wow, Katarina was so smart. She started her family during the pandemic, which now they can't. So they have to wait till they're 35 or nearing 40. At least I can have 4 more kids by the time I'm 35 and then go back to my career. And I feel like if you overthink too much about it, about working and being a mom, that's when it gets stressful because you're thinking, okay, I really have to be there for my kid and spend time with them, but I also have to work. But then it goes back and forth and it's just a seesaw effect. So I think if you just do it, okay, this is my schedule, I have to go to work from this time to this time, you go to work, and then I don't work out anymore. I used to work out 3 hours a day. So instead of working out, I spend time with my son. And instead of 3 hours a day, it's 1 hour 3 times a week. So you also lose interest in things that you were interested in before, and somehow it balances out. And I think no matter what, you'll have those regrets in the future that, okay, I wish I worked less and spent more time with my child, as my lolo had told me. And I think if you just don't dwell too much on those thoughts, then you'll be spending more time with your kids.
Whatever choice you end up making is probably the best choice that you could have made for your child and yourself at the time. That's basically what we're getting to that. And I think we're all agreeing, and diba, parang oo nga naman, diba? Doc Gia, would you like to add anything to that as well?
Basta, don't forget what your dreams look like at the expense of others. Be it you have your own dreams, your child will have their dreams, and that's fine. So, me naman, the way I approach it, it's self, others, and future. Something like that. Parang, I see it in, it's like a road. You may be in the middle, basta just name your top 3 priorities.
Yes.
And never forget that you are your own beautiful self, just the way you are.
Lovely, yes. Yes, yun talaga yun eh. Knowing to appreciate what you have right now. So we'll get back to that in a little bit, but again, we're reminding everyone, please take advantage. You know, there's so many great deals here at the Expo. Making the right choices for you guys here. Katrina mentioned, you know, making good spending choices as well is very important. So we've got the Pampers booth. They've got up to 17% off. Take advantage, a chance to get a voucher. Yes, why not? 3,500 pesos worth. Minimum spend of 3,000 is all you need to get that while supplies last. Fresco feeling, aircon feeling for their Pampers aircon pants. So another thing that we kind of stress about is the comfort of our babies. And in a tropical country like this one, usually pawis sila and all that. So best to find the Pampers aircon pants to keep them comfy all the time. Absorbs up to 4 loads of water, even their sweat. 10 million micro holes for breathability. It's comfortable for baby, especially for active playtime. So, kanina we started with a question. What was your idea of the perfect parent? And now, what I want to know is now that you are, after this discussion, everything we've realized, and now that you have a broader understanding of what parenthood really is all about, what do you think now is the definition of a perfect parenting?
So I learned a lot from Doc Gia, and a little thing I thought of while listening to her talk was the whole partnership between you and your partner, the father-mother for your child, or the father-mother figure for your child. And I feel like the perfect parent stems when that partnership is solid, where there's a great dynamic. It doesn't have to even be romantically, but you have a good tandem going, you understand each other. And I think, as Doc Gia said, energy flows and it's nakakahawa din. So I think when your kids see that or your kids feel that, the rest of the household flows. And also, if you think about it, your child only really lives with you for what? 18 years, 20 years max. And the person you'll be most closest to is ideally your spouse. So having a good relationship with them, I feel is the first step of perfect parenthood. And going back to my first answer of my parents being my ideal perfect parents, if they ever got a divorce or separated, I would be completely shocked. Like, really shocked, because I think they nailed the whole partnership with each other. And then also, I think the perfect parent, my goal every day, and for the rest of his life and for my future kids, is whether I'm involved in this or not, is to make sure they have the best day of their life. Even if my son will not remember everything or anything at all as he gets older, I still want that to be my goal for him, is that today he was just like, oh my gosh, I saw Coco Melon everywhere, and then I watched Coco Melon, then I ran around, and I played with all my toys. I mean, I'm guessing those are the thoughts he has. Or he went swimming, and then the older he gets, those things that excite him will change. But I just really want him to go to sleep every night so thankful and grateful, even if I'm not involved, even if he doesn't see me because I'm at work or on a work trip or he's at school. And I think in order for that to happen, I have to teach him how to have the best day of his life every day.
Ganda, no? It's really simplifying and just making sure that your son is happy every single day. That's it. That's the goal. Yes, Doc Gia.
Me naman, the goal is to let my child or children be themselves and realize that it's okay. Like, I don't have to live up to what mommy is or daddy is expecting from me, but I'm gonna grow up as my own person. And that's perfectly fine. So, para sa akin, ma-achieve ko lang yun, perfect na yun.
Yun ang perfect parent, and it varies with each person based on their experiences and how they love their children and their children as well. So, I think what we're getting here is let go of the pressure, let go of the standards, let go of the comparisons, just whatever you think is going to be best for your child, that's what will give them as the perfect parent. Thank you so much to both of you for sharing so much with us. Before we end our talk, do you have any final tips for everyone joining us here today? Katarina?
Check out the Pampers booth. I heard they have a 17% off sale. And of course, our goal is for our skin to be as smooth as a baby's bottom. So I think that's the first step, is to make sure baby's bottom is smooth, right?
And then in aligning with what you said, if you want them to be happy today, their comfort, making sure that they're comfortable while they play, yun diba? So at 1 year old, it's basic things like that. Doc Gia.
And I just like to say thank you to Eda Mama and Pampers. Thanks so much. And I like that my key takeaways, best day of their life. Sobrang ganda. So I think that's my main message. I think parenting shouldn't be a one-way street also. It has to be something that's two-way. And again, let's let go of that essence of being perfect, and let's just be ourselves in this world that's filled with filtering. In this world that just allows us just these are the standards, but let's get out of those standards and just be.
I think also it's fun to have a kid because in a way, your kids remind you how to make every day an adventure. Whether it's your work or something as serious as your business, you see your kid, they're having fun and you're like, I should be having fun also. And I guess learning from them and absorbing their energy also.
Thank you so much to both of you for such great insights. Allowing us to realize that we're allowed to be vulnerable. We're allowed to figure things out along the way, even if it has something to do with, becoming better versions of ourselves for our children. It doesn't have to happen today. It can happen tomorrow. Maybe it can take a few years. But as long as you're working towards it with your children, then you're okay. So before we finally let our beautiful mommies go, reminding you guys one more time because it is a great thing to take advantage of. We do have up to 17% or 17% off at the Pampers booth. We also have our voucher worth 3,500. If you spend 3,000 pesos, you have a chance to get that. While supplies last, we are also just encouraging everyone to make sure that you check out everything that we mentioned earlier at the Pampers booth. And we're just so thankful to both of you because you allowed us to really open up that part of our hearts and our minds that we probably keep locked now because we think there's no time for it. No one wants to hear about that. You guys are allowed to do that. Thank you so much to our power parents here. Thank you to all of our power parents. Don't forget to drop by the Pampers booth right here at the Expo. A round of applause, please, one more time for Katarina and of course Doc Gia. Thank you for being with us. We will see you guys again very soon. I'm sure they'll be roaming the area first. You may now step down and take a rest.